Hello, in this World of Warships video we are going to be looking at the Wakatake, the tier 3 Japanese destroyer. And well, the really good thing about the Japanese destroyers is they are basically a pretty linear progression from tier 2 up to tier 10, and that you basically just get better torpedoes and better guns, and well, not quite better everything, but the ships just get better but stay generally the same up the whole line. So I'm just going to kind of start off by comparing this to the Umikaze down at tier 2. And well, for a start, the Wakatake gets the same guns, but it gets 3 of them to the Umikaze's 2. It gets the same number of torpedo tubes, but these torpedo tubes at tier 3, the torpedoes they fire go faster than the ones at tier 2. They have shorter range, but the difference between 7 kilometers and 8 kilometers isn't that huge, but it is noticeable. As I said, torpedoes are faster and they do a lot more damage when they hit, which just makes them a bit more useful despite not having that range. The Wakatake also gets a couple of AA guns, but well, it gets 2 7.7mm machine guns, which are basically just not useless unless the aircraft, or they're not useful unless the aircraft are directly above you. And it gets a single 40mm gun, which does shoot at enemy aircraft, but I don't think I've ever killed anything with it. With the Wakatake, the thing I like the most about it is that it's very manoeuvrable. It's got a maximum speed of 36 knots, which is pretty good for a destroyer, tight turning circle radius, and a 3.5 second rudder shift time, which is actually amazing. But the thing that really works in the ship's favour is that when making kind of small adjustments to your course, say within about 20 or 30 degrees of your original heading, you actually don't lose a lot of speed, which means that you can kind of keep manoeuvring in those small adjustments for a very long time while maintaining a high speed and just making yourself a near to impossible target for the enemy to hit. It's actually slightly less stealthy than the Umikaze, but not by a lot. And well, I'll show you some gameplay in the ship. This is going to be a short video, partly because I'm heading off overseas. Actually, I think by the time this video comes out I'll be on my way overseas, so I'm trying to make a lot of shorter videos to give you guys something to watch while I'm gone. And also because I had a second replay, which I kind of kicked ass, and I do well in this game, but I don't kind of get the results I deserve. Whereas with the other game I had, I got the results I deserved, but I accidentally deleted it. So I figured one will do you. Anyway, this is on one of the new maps. It's New Hope, and it's a 3 versus 3. I think this game was either played immediately before the server restart or immediately after, so they're very small games at that time. And my team has 2 destroyers and an aircraft carrier, and the enemy team has a battleship, an aircraft carrier, and a cruiser. And well, I think I'm the only tier 3 in this game. The enemy team's all tier 4s. So I thought at the time this was going to be a very hard game for us to do, especially since that cruiser should be able to kill both of us destroyers and no problems, and we're going to not necessarily struggle to kill the cruiser, but it's not going to be easy, and even killing the battleship's going to take a fair while. Okay, we spotted the cruiser. It's 10.2 k's out, but that's well beyond our torpedo range, but luckily it won't be able to spot us at this range either, so we can put these islands in between it and us, and hopefully we can ambush it when we come out the other side. It's basically what I was thinking. In the meantime, we'll cap B so we can start getting hit on points. Due to our stealthiness and speed, we could actually theoretically just win the game by capping, but that would make a very interesting game.
Our team has taken the lead.
I see the battleships coming around the headland, but it's within my torpedo range, so I fire off some. Hope those hit. The the destroyer in front of me lays a smoke screen, which means that I basically don't have to, and I can just kind of turn into its smoke screen and get all the concealment, and I can save my smoke screen for later when we might need it again. I've turned away from the enemy ships where my torpedoes are reloading. My friendly destroyer's actually gone forward though, which surprised me a bit, but I'm thinking it's trying to get a torpedo firing solution onto that cruiser. You see they managed to get 2 hits onto that battleship. It did 12,000 damage. And my torpedoes kind of back up again, but the battleship's manoeuvring, so I don't shoot yet. I take one shot there, then have to turn to avoid the island. So I've only got 2 torpedoes in the water, which aren't going to do a lot of damage to a battleship. But luckily it's not looking at me, because it could be hitting me at this range pretty reliably at this point in time. But it's been following the same course for quite a while, so I fire my next 2 torpedoes at it, and hopefully it will keep going straight for the next little bit. And right about now I've put the smoke screen in between the two of us, so I was hoping it would stop spotting me. But as you can see, I'm still being spotted, which is kind of unfortunate, but luckily they're all focusing on my allied destroyer. I managed to get 2 more torpedo hits there, which did a fair bit more damage to this battleship. And it's actually, the smoke screen's actually hiding the battleship now. But it pokes out at very close range. I fired 2 more. And there's 3 and 4. And now I am just trying to get out of here. I put my smoke screen up because I am way too close to this battleship. You saw there I lost almost half my health. But I do 13,000 damage to that battleship, and it's flooding. And it looks like my flooding might actually kill it. I'm guessing it had to use its repair ability on one of my earlier torpedo hits, which means it's probably going to flood for another minute or so, which might be enough to sink it. You can also see that on the bottom I've turned off my AA guns. That's just because I'm hiding in my smoke screen and I don't want my guns firing to give my position away. And I should also point out the enemy cruiser is dead, my allied destroyer killed it. And just then my allied destroyer manages to get the kill on the battleship there as well. So we've kind of turned this game from one that I thought would be very difficult for us. Well, it's now 3-on-1 and we are just chasing down the last enemy carrier. And I just saw then it was actually 2 tier 3 destroyers and a tier 4 aircraft carrier against 3 tier 4 ships. But anyway, I think I've done my bit here. I've got 6 torpedo hits on the enemy battleship, and I've done at least 30,000 damage, haven't they? So now it's just chasing down the enemy aircraft carrier, and I thought it would be hiding kind of in the bottom corner of the map, so I decided to go cap A on the way just to put a bit more pressure on it. But it was actually closer to the action than I thought, so my allied destroyer gets there before me, or really we get there about the same time, I shouldn't say that, but just not following the optimal route to the target. See, what I thought he was hiding in the bottom corner of the map, the aircraft carrier is actually hiding, well, kind of 3 islands over from where I am. Should be able to actually see it once I get round this little island. And I know it's only Langley, from that position it's not actually going to be able to cap us, so I actually leave the cap here, even though I haven't, well, capped it. Just because we're going to win anyway. The aircraft carrier is not going to be able to do anything to stop us killing it, basically. And yep, there it is, way out in the distance. And, well, like all Japanese destroyers, the Wakatake doesn't have very good guns. They've actually just buffed them in a very recent kind of mini patch, just because people were complaining. I mean, personally I actually thought it was fine. I'm quite happy having Japanese destroyers, just you don't use your guns except in special circumstances. But the buff actually hasn't done a lot. From memory, the Wakatake before the patch had a 45-second turret traverse time, whereas now it has a 30-second turret traverse time. And that's to do a 180 degrees, so essentially switch from your firing on the port side to your starboard side, or vice versa. Whereas the American destroyers do it in, let's say around 10 seconds. I think that might actually be high, but I don't know. And it's still basically the same as it was, that the Japanese destroyers can really only use their guns if they are travelling in a straight line. So what I've done here is I've basically set myself up on an intercept course with this Langley, and I'm firing away with my guns, firing high explosive because I want to set its flight deck on fire so it won't be able to launch any more aircraft, which would just make this, well, it's already pretty one-sided, it would make it impossible to it. And I actually get lucky in that my high explosive shell manages to penetrate the citadel of the Langley there, but kind of because of the very small size of the shells I'm firing at this Langley, it only does 900 damage. And there we go, I've set it on fire. Apparently that last bunch, well, it put the fire out just as those torpedo bombers were coming in, But if we can set it on fire again, then it's going to, well, there you go, it's going to have to be a minute or so before it can put that fire out, which means it won't be able to launch any bombers at us. Now fire my torpedoes at it, because I've come within 5 kilometers range of it. And you can see here I'm turning and my guns are getting further away from where I'm aiming. So I stop turning and I can start shooting at it. My allied cruiser is off to the right of the screen, he's coming around the other side of the island, whereas I'm kind of chasing this aircraft carrier into it, so between the two of us we're actually doing some pretty good teamwork here. Another penetrating citadel hit, that one does 679 damage. These are kind of very small guns I'm firing, which is why I kind of just don't mind that you don't get many opportunities to use them. And the aircraft carrier actually managed to avoid all my torpedoes, which was very good, well, sailing I suppose is a word for it. Manoeuvring from the aircraft carrier, because it's not a very manoeuvrable ship. It knocked out my runner, but I'm able to fix it quite easily. I'm now within range of its secondary guns.
Problem solved, sir.
But I'm pretty confident we can do this. And well, it looks like my allied destroyer's torpedoes actually managed to kill it there. You see, I didn't actually get any kills, 11 hits and 6 torpedo hits, got a lot of experience though. But I think that game's actually kind of showed you basically everything you need to know about the Wakatake. Like, you saw how effective the torpedoes were at hitting that battleship. Like, when they did hit, they were very effective at doing a lot of damage to it. You also saw how fragile this ship is, in that, well, that one hit from the battleship almost killed me. You kind of also saw how useless the guns were. Well, not useless, but how the guns weren't particularly great in my last little engagement with the aircraft carrier there. And also, if you were paying attention at the start to my little sixth sense indicator, you would have seen that this is actually a pretty stealthy ship, and by using that smoke screen and kind of keeping my distance from enemy ships, I was actually able to, you know, not be spotted for a long time. And I think I actually fired quite, at least my first salvo of torpedoes, I fired them at a range where the enemy couldn't see me, but I could shoot at them, which is kind of a very useful range to have in a ship. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this much shorter video than usual, and I'll see you all next time.